Okay, good evening and welcome. This is the September 19th, 2022, 6 p.m. regularly scheduled meeting for the East Long Meadow Public School Committee. I'll call the meeting to order at 6:05. This meeting is being both audio and video taped this evening, and I would please ask that everyone would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, moving on, we have a roll call. Sam, would you like to start?
Yes, I'm ready.
Thank you.
Samantha Velasquez, recording secretary.
Pamela Blair, Assistant Superintendent for Business.
Sarah Trulio.
Gordon Smith, Superintendent of Schools.
Gregory Thompson.
Antonella Rochella.
Johnson Boucher.
And Glenda.
Julia Boucher, student representative.
Excellent, thank you. And we have some meeting minutes for approval this evening. I would take a motion, please.
Move to approve the regular session meeting minutes from September 7th, 2022.
Motion made by Sarah,
Second.
second by Antonella. Discussion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. That carries 5-0. Sam, you got the red boxes all set. Awesome. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for that. Looks good. Okay, we have committee and subcommittee communications. Amy, would you like to start us out?
Sure. I did want to share that I'm going to be attending my first as a representative for the LPVEC tomorrow. So anything that I have to bring back, I can bring back at our next meeting, but that's tomorrow.
Cool.
Okay.
Julia, how about
Okay.
the student?
So far, since I've last seen you, I think students and teachers have been getting used to the new schedule, and it's been very good overall. And so many clubs are joining together, starting many like new and exciting things, as well as sports are doing very well, including the football game that we just had on Friday. It was against South Hadley, and it was a 56-0 win for East Long Meadow.
Wow.
And
Whiteout, did I hear?
yeah. And then this coming Friday will also be another home game. And so a couple other things just to make some people aware of is that there is an open house at the high school this Thursday that starts at 6:15. And also the district attorney's youth board is looking for students 10th to 12th grade, and the deadline for that to sign up is September 21st.
Okay, thank you, Julia.
You're not signing up?
Going on.
There's a lot going on. I know she does.
It is a great
It is
program.
a great program.
So if you have any friends who'd be interested in signing up, that would be good.
Okay. Sarah,
Just to report that I was at the Birchland Park open house, and it was really well organized. All the teachers were greeting families and able to share expectations for the courses that the students are participating in. Just a really welcoming atmosphere, especially wearing that parent hat coming into the middle school for the first time as a parent of a middle schooler. So it was a really well-run event, and thank the administration and the faculty for making it such a welcoming one.
okay, thank you. Antonella?
Just that the Spartan Sprint is this Sunday. So people want to sign up.
eleaf.org?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so too. Are you gonna be there?
No, I can't go. Are you running in it
Huh?
this year?
What day is it?
Sunday.
We voted on it last time.
Yeah, I remember. I might be there. Is that all you got?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Beth?
Well, I'm super excited to actually go to an open house. I know this sounds crazy. It is my last one as a parent, which is fraught with challenge. That said, I gave her a pass last week, but super excited.
Cool. Good stuff.
And the open houses in person have been great.
Yeah.
It's nice to be back.
Julia started with me in 2010. Remember, you don't remember, you might remember, she came with her backpack.
Can't be there.
And we'd have executive sessions, and she'd have to sit outside, because I did not know what I got myself into. So- Remember that? coming to do the warrant and everything. Yeah, so we figured that out quick, but yeah, but anyways.
Thank you.
But I am happy about the open house. Sorry, Joe.
Watching anyways.
You're used to it, you're right.
Fans on Facebook.
Yes. Absolutely.
We're just before Monday Night Footballs.
That's right. Okay, thank you so much, Beth. Okay, with that, we will move along. We have superintendent's presentation this evening. We're gonna start off with friends from Birchland for a trip.
We are. So we have Dr. Allen here and Mr. Pearson, and they are going to outline for us a trip to Washington DC that will take place May 17th to May 19th this spring. And since it's an out-of-state trip, it's something that comes to the school committee for approval. So they would like to have a few moments of your time to present all of this.
Thanks for the kind words, Ms. Trulio. It was a really good night. And it was really fun to be back in person for open house. So we normally like to propose this in the spring. And this year we were unable to, so we're proposing it now, and it will be a bit of an expedited process on the family side. But, you know, as you all know, we re-implemented the DC trip a few years ago. First, we brought it to school sanctioned. Then we completely grew it 3 or 4 years ago. I was in charge of it. I ran it. And we had a blast, and then we had COVID. And then we had signed students up for last year. And then I had my time out, and Mr. Pearson took it over. And they went last year and had a fantastic trip, not without a million challenges, transporting 140 something middle schoolers to DC, but overall it was a fantastic trip. And we have incredible chaperones on our staff that go with and make it all possible. So we are hoping to bring it back this year. And the one change that, you know, if you've been looking at this 3 or 4 years in a row, the biggest change here is that we are hoping to go on from a Wednesday to a Friday. It's going to help us in terms of getting chaperones. It is after MCAS is over. And it's also going to help the kids.
Yeah, it's tough. We do a lot of walking, and we've just had the good luck to be there in extreme heat waves the last couple of years. When you get back early Sunday morning rather than late Saturday night, it's not a lot of time to recover, particularly for those of us who are a little bit older, more challenging. So it would definitely be helpful to have the weekend to get our legs back under us.
So obviously it's a great extension of our civics class. So as far as it fitting in, it fits in perfect. We generally have about 200 eighth graders. Last year, we brought about 145 on this trip. It's open to all of them. You know, I mean, we have to have a 10-to-1 ratio. So if 200 signed up, we might be in some trouble chaperone wise. But so far in the 2 big years we've done it, we've been able to get enough chaperones. To be honest with you, the biggest challenge is getting a nurse. We need to bring a nurse. So even if we get approval, if we can't find a nurse to do it, that's where it can fall apart. But first step is getting approval.
Yep, we've got some leads on some nurses, so we're hoping that when we have a date,
Hunting down.
that loose end closed up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of excited talk today among my 8th grade staff members about the new Ken Burns documentary, the U.S. and the Holocaust, and how that ties into what they're going to see if we go to DC. So we get to go to the Holocaust Museum and see all this stuff. So there's a lot of excitement around that.
Awesome.
Is there any concern on your behalf about staffing the building, being it from Wednesday through a Friday, and if you need into staff to cover the chaperoning piece, is it beyond 8th grade staff that typically goes, and will that have an impact on the other grade levels?
It does have an impact on the other grade levels. Absolutely. It's doable though.
Okay.
It's doable. And to be honest with you, I hadn't thought about that, but we've had so many challenges already this year with staff COVIDs that it's been like the craziest sub year ever. So it's slowing down now, which is good. But no, we were able to make it work.
Okay,
But it is a little bit of a stretch.
just because to your point, subs are
Yeah.
harder to find.
Yeah.
Like nurses.
A lot harder to find. Yeah.
May I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
About the students who choose not to attend? Is there an, idea that you both have about why certain students wouldn't attend, and if it is financial, is there a way that we as a district might be able to support families that want to send, but cost is a barrier?
Yeah, well, World Strides does have payment plan options. They do scholarships. I'm not sure which ones we're going to be eligible for this year because we're starting a little bit behind where we normally do. They have fundraising things to help students offset the cost. I can't speak to all the scholarships, but there are options out there to help people offset the costs. And it's not, they have to come up with it all at once. They do payment plan options, which is what we try and do this in the spring to spread it out a little bit more. With the nurse challenge, we're starting a little bit later this year.
So there are a lot of options through World Stride, but families do have to like pursue it. And we don't get any money on this, so in terms of, we don't collect any student money. They pay through World Strides. With 145 coming, that's about 50 that don't come. I'm sure some of it is financial. Some of it is certainly like, I have club soccer and I'm just not disappearing for 3 days. Some of it is, we went to DC as a family over April vacation. They just don't need it. So I'm sure some of it is financial, but there's a lot of kids that we find a way to make it work for. Yeah.
Great. Any other questions from the committee? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve. Please.
I move to approve the student travel field trip request to go to Washington, DC with World Strides Discover Now program from May 17th through May 19th, 2023.
Okay, motion made by Beth,
Second,
second by Sarah. Discussion,
I do have one more question.
please.
Those wouldn't count as absences, right? The kids, they would be, okay, I'm just thinking about attendance and accountability as we move forward. I want to make sure that,
Yeah, we are too.
okay.
Yeah.
Much, but just wanted to, before I,
Not part of the chronic absence.
no,
Matter of fact, even if they refuse to go to a museum, they're still present.
present,
Okay.
okay.
It helps.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah, please.
I just think it's really great that kids are given this opportunity to go out, go to our nation's capital. And it's such a great learning experience outside of the classroom.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure it's a ton of work too,
It is, and thank God we have good staff that do volunteer to chaperone. It is a big undertaking.
but it's just worth it for the kids.
That makes me think too, because you mentioned like the wonderful opportunity and thinking about what Amy mentioned about like the financial cost. I wonder if have any of the educators ever considered like writing, I guess, a grant to eLeaf to try to secure maybe 3 seats? Like when you think about the money that eLeaf contributes to the schools, like could they sponsor 3 students and then maybe there's some form of like a, I don't want to say lottery, but maybe an essay contest or something over the course of the year where they're demonstrating, and maybe it's the eLeaf board that actually picks which students are the recipients of those 3. I mean, I'm making this up, but thinking about how you partner with the school so often, like would they partner around something like this?
Their money usually goes to, though, when they donate the money, it usually, well, it's supposed to benefit
All, gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's why I don't know if they would do that, but it doesn't hurt to ask.
That's a great
Part of
idea,
like
though.
their charter rules or whatever.
Yeah.
it is, but that doesn't mean
They might be open to doing something more need-based though, so it might be a good conversation. Start.
Just to ask or.
Good idea. Yeah.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. That motion carries 5-0. You're off and running.
You got a lot of work to do.
Starts tomorrow.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you both.
Appreciate your time. Mr. Pearson, good luck.
Yeah.
Find that nurse.
Yes.
I'm a nurse.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to 5.1.2, which is an update on the MSBA feasibility study.
So there's not a ton of new information since our last update at our last school committee meeting. The last meeting, we talked about the fact that we had submitted to the MSBA the PDP, the preferred design preliminary design
There it is. Plan.
preference plan. Could be. Anyway, there's a 560, yeah, they just keep calling it PDP. I apologize. I will get that acronym for you. But anyway, the PDP, which was a 568 page document that had our educational plan as well as all that we had discussed up to that point. But most importantly, had shown how the school building committee had narrowed from roughly 7 different options that they were discussing to 4. What we've done now over the last meeting or two is to start to really dig into the 4 options that are going forward. And one of those is what they call an add reno or an addition renovation. One of those is the base code upgrade. And then 2 of those are new builds, new construction. And we're starting to really start to dig into what does that look like? How might they change a little bit in terms of possibly reducing square feet here and there to bring costs down so that all options, at least in the discussion over the next few months, stay viable. And we also have started to move forward on putting a schedule together in terms of community outreach. So the very first community forum, public forum, informational forum is Wednesday night this week, the 21st at 6 p.m. at the East Long Meadow Senior Center or the Pleasant View Senior Center right here on North Main Street. We hope that we'll get a good turnout, depending on what time this meeting gets out. There will be a Blackboard Connect message going out. If it's late, it will go out tomorrow. But we do have
That's
some
open to the whole community.
open to the whole community,
Parents, voters, residents.
voters,
Yep.
residents, anybody who's interested. And I think that the key piece to, especially this forum on Wednesday, but just as we keep updating everyone, is we're going to give a little bit of a history, just sort of what has been the process to get to this point in time right now, where we are conducting a feasibility study. Explain a little bit about what a feasibility study entails, the fact that they're looking at the existing conditions of the high school. They're bringing in architects and engineers and really understanding the challenges of this building now that it's 62 years old. And then trying to, in the 4 options I just mentioned, resolve those challenges. How do we best resolve those challenges in a way that's going to move the academic programming forward, move forward some of the challenges that the community sees in general in terms of needing space and meeting areas, meeting challenges of finding venues for weekend events and so forth. So hopefully whatever is selected down the road, and it is going to be a few months or even years down the road in terms of project completion, it's going to solve a lot of those challenges, as many of those challenges as we possibly can. And so getting that information out starts on Wednesday. So we have one scheduled on the 21st, as I said, and we have another scheduled on November 16th, excuse me, here at the high school. And that's going to also be at 6 p.m. And we will have smaller presentations scheduled probably in the next few months for the elementary and middle schools PTOs.
Great.
So that's the outreach that right now has been discussed. The school building committee is going to start meeting a little bit more regularly. So our next meeting is on the 29th, September 29th. Here in this room, 4 p.m. Everybody's invited. It's a public meeting.
I'm thinking too, just as you mentioned, like going to those community, offering those community events and then talking about the PTOs, seeing the tent at National Night Out was also such a really positive,
Right.
Just way for the community to engage with the process and wondering, the fall is, riddled with opportunities like that. Like, are there ways that we can, support, like thinking about the Spartan Sprint and
Sure.
Sunday, like, are there ways that we can think about some of those events? And it doesn't have to be like a major production, but even if it's some of us like being there or
Right.
members of the team to be able to just answer and field questions or take people's names and email addresses down or anything along those lines. Because I do think there's still a misnomer in the community that there is no process in place.
Right.
Like we are not in even the feasibility study. I just don't know that
The
message
people
is
are not even realizing that. Okay.
has permeated the community as a whole.
We had discussed possibly, and I'd be happy to go through later in the day, like PTO meetings.
Yep.
Right.
And explain to them and then have them maybe, get some of that information out to the schools. We just got to figure that out as they start having their meetings, because I think, you get your real core parents that like do the PTO thing. I was never a good PTO mom. Anyhow, I'll give you money. You go do it. I was bad, but they're huge and they're core to the school. But you know what I mean? They're like really active. They've got their stuff together. They know how to reach out to the family. So I think maybe
Thinking about like shredding events, like we have so many different
Yeah.
things that happen between now, and early November that draw from different populations of the community than just the families. Not that we don't need the families, but we have an entire community to get on board with.
Let's get a brochure.
I was just gonna say, even if we can get informational
Yeah.
flyer that we could pass out at these events and then on it have, excuse me, the link to the project section of our webpage.
Yep.
Because there's a ton of information there and all the presentations, plus the school building committee meetings are on that, are linked onto that page.
Is there
It's on the LCAP page.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
I apologize. I didn't
No,
know
no.
you were done. Is there a virtual presence with just this in general? I know obviously there's information everywhere out there and different websites, but is there like a social media page that's dedicated to?
Not a social media page yet. However, there is discussion about what our next steps are as we get more into sharing with the community. Should we be looking at some type of public relations group to help us with these things?
But the thing that hits me a little bit to a degree is Skanska,
Mhm.
who I am very happy with so far, but I'm still a little bit, and I don't know exactly where their level of, they're supposed to be getting that word out for us. And like, at what point do we take that over? We should say someone in the community does. Because I feel sometimes like there should be a constant Facebook presence, like just going on constantly where it's, and who's in charge of that? You know what I mean? Like we could say we want to go out and hire, a public relations company, but we are paying, like at what point? And we've had some very busy discussions and there wasn't the time to discuss that, but I think like at our next meeting.
Maybe at the next school building
should
committee meeting, we
like-
have to discuss that.
What do we do? Because I think that I'm feeling like they're supposed to be putting stuff out there. They're supposed to be the ones reaching out because it's kind of hard for us when we get to a point,
Right.
we've got to stop and we've got to let the community take it over.
Right.
When is that?
Right.
Right?
And I think-
And what is Skanska's role in
We
that?
started to discuss when that time is in terms of the schedule. But in terms of Skanska's role, so if you remember, they had presented all of these different scenarios of how do you want to get this information out?
Mhm.
And ultimately, we had decided, well, let's start with our webpage, having something central right there on the page. And, they came up with the logo, the ELHS building project. I think Ryan is then connecting things out to the town Facebook page. But we had not gone so far as to creating our own Facebook page or creating, our own other social media platform. And so maybe that's something we need to discuss. But that was something that we had said, this is sort of how we want to begin it.
Right.
And then now it sounds like we may want to expand it.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people on the forums, there's a couple out there, and I think it needs to be like every couple of days, something's got to go up on it, even if it's just directing them back to the web page.
Right.
And I don't know if we do that through the town and then, like I could share it with the town and you could share it with the town, we could share it with the forums and then get people on it through that. But it does need to be a little bit, it's like, okay, there's a web page.
And people aren't visiting it.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds like that's an agenda item. on
I
our
think it
next
might be.
SBC meeting.
It's time.
Yeah, well, and
yes.
they're experienced at the whole process,
Right.
so they would
Yeah,
certainly
yeah.
have some input, I would say.
And at some point, we need to have a group too, a community group. Then we've got to back off
Yeah.
the action committee. And then at some point, I know we're really, other than being like,
I think we're a few months away from that piece.
Yeah.
Because we have to get all this information out
Right.
and then hand off. And that's when you're starting to narrow in on the selection.
Right,
And then that group's really got to run with it to
okay.
educate.
Because we have to figure out how to promote that piece of it too.
It's so true. And Gordon, I brought up an email here so I can make sure we get the acronyms correctly.
Okay,
We've
thank you.
submitted the PDP, which is the Preliminary Design Program. And that was the school building committee that had to come up with, consensus on what to bring forward. Now we go to the next step. And that's why it's so crucial that we get the community on board here, because we want to hear, what do you want to see in this new building? What don't you want to see? So that these decisions can be made, because in February, the PSR, preferred schematic report, is what's going to be submitted to MSBA. So just thought I'd help you out with.
Massachusetts School Building.
Yes, I'm sorry. Massachusetts School Building.
That acronym I know.
Yeah.
Thank you for looking that up. I appreciate that. And Mr. Thompson was right, it was program.
I don't think I said it, but thank you for giving me credit. I said something else.
Oh, did you? Someone said
Now I
program.
forget though.
Who said program? I said program.
I'll take it. Thank you. All right. Thank you for that update. We're going to meet again next week, and that, as you said, is
And
televised.
Wednesday, Wednesday, I think we'll also.
Oh, tomorrow night or Wednesday?
LCAT will be there on Wednesday. So if people can't go, the importance of, they can certainly watch it and get the information. Having them there is so crucial, because there will be some interaction in terms of not only question and answer, but also we'd like to get their feedback, because the options are going to be up on boards. But more importantly, we're not at the point where you have to say it's this option or it's that option. We would like to really hear and get feedback on the elements of each option. And so if people like a certain aspect of this option and there's a way to do that, and then one of the other options, great. That's the discussion we want to have. And so they're going to have stickies to hand out, red and green for go. We like it, red, no. So we want to have that kind of interaction with the public, and we're hoping that we have a good turnout.
Yeah. And I hope they use the stickies too. We're gonna have to, if we see people there and we go, why not, I think it's gonna be a little bit. Go do this, show us what you think.
Right.
Yeah.
They have to listen to the presentation
They
first.
do.
and
Yeah.
Then they have a stretch break to go do it.
Okay.
How about the projector and screen situation?
Mr. Quimby and Mr. Fenny helped us last week set up TVs and I think a screen. And so we will be verifying that tomorrow morning, and I'll be over earlier than the start of the program, and we'll set up the chairs and.
I'll be a little early too. I'll
Yeah.
come back.
So we can set up 500 chairs, because we will be having a
Sweet.
packed house.
Great.
Good.
Although maybe not 500.
Can I ask a question about that though, Gordon? Like,
Sure.
I know you're promoting it tonight and
Mhm.
there's messaging that's gone out. Is it considered, I guess, permissible for us to also put something like that in the reminder?
Oh, yeah.
So like, that's not like crossing that boundary of like, we're
I think
advertising.
actually,
something like that.
Informational.
I
yeah.
thought in the last interview I did with the reminder that I did say.
I mean, like an ad, like, can
Oh,
we put
oh,
like
yeah.
an ad in the reminder
Sure.
saying,
I mean, we can advertise
are-
the 16th of November.
like, or
Sure.
these are the upcoming events?
Yeah.
And putting it there, because again, just trying to, but I don't want to blur the lines.
Population too.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe
Yeah.
they do an article on it and then it would
Yeah.
pass. I mean.
They have, I mean, they've done a couple articles on the feasibility study itself, but
Yeah, but like,
Sometimes like a one hitter, like a half page ad catches people's attention more than an interview maybe with Gordon. And just because it continues on pages
No one wants to read that.
rather than like, oh, here's a color print ad
I would
saying,
read it.
I would
Thank you. Yeah, Sarah would read it.
I would read it and I'd highlight it. But like a colorful ad, maybe a QR code, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not continuing into like,
Sure.
see page
Catch
B6,
your eye
the
and-
remainder of this.
and get
No,
think
like
about coming.
quick hitter.
Yeah.
no, it
Here's
makes
the
sense.
information.
Right.
But only if we're not getting a gray area.
No,
Because it's
no.
informational, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's permissible for us to do.
We
Right,
want
no,
participation,
this is
yeah, but people
strictly
know it's coming.
information.
Okay.
So we're not, all we're doing is providing information on an ongoing study that we're all involved in, and we want more
Yeah.
people to be involved in,
So I
because
don't
it's
know, just trying to think.
it's very much a community project.
And Gordon is going to do a Blackboard Connect announcement tomorrow, I believe.
What about
Probably tonight.
Tonight?
About depends on. Get out.
What time we,
Pam, what about funding something like that?
Pages and pages
We
of
have
presentations.
we don't have a place, but,
Not out our school committee,
well, there's some,
okay.
there are some funds there. And again, there's certain rules. So
Right.
I think we need to find out what exactly those rules are so that we can make sure we are in compliance with.
Okay.
Thank you.
They do community events sometimes, like I think Matt's free, like they'll put in a blurb, like if something's happening in the community.
Yeah.
Do they still do
They
that?
do.
Yeah, but again, like.
I know, you want something that goes, how?
Or that gets like
Yeah.
people's attention.
Yeah.
That says, oh, wait, that's happening? Shoot, like, let me mark that rather than perusing the community events saying like, oh, I hope I stumble upon something. Like trying to grab people who we might not necessarily be able to,
On the East Long Meadow page.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or the front, like both, you know what I mean?
Because there's some people that don't do the whole Facebook thing too. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And they might read
Absolutely.
that, but if nothing else, we can at least do the community notifications.
Sure.
And,
Well, and we all can push that out on Facebook and such
oh, yeah.
if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I believe we have the flyer up on the town Facebook page,
Okay.
because we do have a flyer for this.
Mhm.
Okay.
I'll get out to the portals tomorrow.
Right.
Okay. Good discussion on that. We'll keep moving forward with that project. And speaking of, well, yeah, we'll go to the Raise of Hope next.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You all set?
Yeah,
Okay.
please, thank you.
So under new business, we have a request from the Rays of Hope from Mr. Teeman. Basically to utilize our parking lot as they've done for many years on Sunday, October 23rd, to have people park here, and then they will bus and shuttle them over to Forest Park for the march. So they're requesting they would use it basically all day on that Sunday, and I think they do start very early.
Amy, do you know about our policy on Sunday mornings at the schools?
Yes.
Okay.
Shared it with me last time. Thank you.
Questions, concerns, comments? Look for a motion, please.
I'll try. I move to approve the usage of the high school parking lot for the Rays of Hope March on October 23rd, 2022, Sunday.
Okay, thank you, Antonella. Motion made by Antonella,
A second.
second by Beth. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I,
Those opposed, nay. That carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. We will.
And speaking of the school building committee, as many of you know, Tom Christensen has been appointed as the deputy town manager.
Correct.
And our town manager, Mary McNally, has requested or asked if you consider adding Mr. Christensen to the building committee. He certainly comes with a wealth of knowledge, is formerly being the
Deputy Superintendent,
deputy superintendent of the part of the
Department of Public Works.
thank you, Gordon. So we would need a motion from this committee to do that.
Okay, I move to add or appoint Thomas Christensen to the East Long Meadow Public School Building Committee.
Excellent.
I think that's it.
Yep, motion made by Beth,
second.
second by Sarah. Discussion. All's in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. That carries 5-0.
Thank you very much. We'll alert both Ms. McNally and Mr. Christensen.
More the merrier. Although Beth likes to talk a lot.
I know.
Good stuff. Good.
Yeah, I'm the talker, right, Greg?
Okay, moving right along. 7.3, new business. You want to jump into that one?
Sure. So this is just a discussion and request regarding the Heritage Park project. So as you may know, over the last probably 5-6 years, there's been a lot of discussion regarding renovating Heritage Park in a variety of ways. Actually, I want to say it was 6 years ago, Mr. Thompson.
At least.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that we were on, Mr. Thompson and I were on one of the first committees with the chair of the rec commission and the rec director at the time, and maybe one other person, to look at some ideas. And I think there was a firm at the time who was helping generate some ideas and some drawings of what you might be able to do at Heritage Park to renovate, add fields, and so forth. Anyway, so those discussions have continued and they've picked up steam, and they have a plan in place. I believe they may even be working with another design firm, and they have an idea of a project, and they're starting to put together plans possibly that will go out to bid eventually. And so in your packets, Mary McNally, the town manager, has given you a little bit of an overview of a discussion between the town attorney and her office regarding the Heritage Park land itself. And I did get a shot off the GIS program. DPW helped me grab that. I'm gonna pass these out. Yep, you have one?
I have one.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, in 1958, the town meeting decided that the area enclosed in the red outline, which is roughly 19 acres of a 16.1 acre park, was to be designated for school purposes. To my knowledge, since 1958, the school department has never utilized that area for school purposes. Only 2 or 3 times in my tenure has it even come up. One of those times was where they were trying to decide to put the dog park over in Heritage Park. And I think the other 2 times were regarding some type of possible renovation plan for Heritage Park. So that still, however, is something that took place at town meeting, and the group, or the town anyway, as they looked possibly down the road to complete some type of renovation at Heritage Park, are looking for different funding sources. As we know, through Mass School Building Authority, we do the same thing with projects that we're working on. Any funding source is a valuable funding source. So they are looking to put in for what is, I think, coming from the state, called a park grant. And it's potentially $400,000. However, in order to put in and be eligible for these park grants, the land that is being discussed in the grant application has to be entirely designated as park land under the control of Parks and Rec within a given town. So in this case, the town cannot move forward with those plans, given that there are 19 acres based on that 1958 town meeting that are designated for school purposes. And so what they're asking is for a vote, there would have to be a 2/3 majority vote to allow the land to be designated back to the town, no longer for school purposes.
Beth, go.
I guess I feel there's a lack of information here in terms of us just saying, I mean, I'm assuming the red portion is the portion that we
Correct.
own, and everything else that's within basically the wooded land is the rest of the park.
Correct.
Yes.
And there's take away our 19 acres, there's still 40 acres of parkland there. So why can they not utilize this without, now I understand that some of the things they want to do maybe within this,
Are they? I
I don't know. There's a lack of information. I'd like to know. I mean, I know they've been working hard on this. I know it's been some time. I'm just, I feel like we really should be presented with a little more other than just, oh, here, take this land, because, I mean,
In some of the information that was given to us, it did say that they need to be controlling all of the land in order to get the grant.
Because is it based on a
It was implied
size?
that it's
That's what I
the
thought I
whole
read.
grant. I think the grant would lessen if not for the 19 acres.
Oh,
That was the
didn't
impression
get
I got.
that.
I got
Oh,
that
okay.
impression.
But it's an impression. We don't want to assume anything.
Well, so I think we can certainly ask questions. We don't have to act on this right away.
The Green Committee thing the other week, there was a whole lot of assuming happening. And there was no information about it. And I feel
Right.
like if we're being, most people who come, you know, Dr. Allen came and, you know, there was a presentation and we understood what we were voting on.
Sure.
And I guess I want to know and I want.
Can I ask why that feels consequential to you? Because this is not even our purview. I mean, this is just land. We're not going to be utilizing it for anything. Why not allow the recreation department to better the town?
It's not that I
Now.
don't want to. I mean, if they came and they had given us some information and a little this and this.
Well,
and
so why don't we
this.
ask some questions and we can
Yeah.
get some answers? I don't think there's anything wrong with
You
that.
know, and I guess just, you know, is this, I know that we never really felt it was the right place to build, but I mean, we're kind of in a, that was just my thought. I just would like to have a little more information in
Right.
terms of what it is exactly. You know, I have no problem with them
So
at some point.
the questions that I had, Beth, to your point, I think were the original warrant article, because it's alluded to in that email, but it's not there. So I'd like to see the original warrant article to see the intent of the land. The scope of the project, including that area, the cost and the sources and the timing of any vote, which, as you all know, we're going for a vote November of 2023.
Right.
So I think that's important. I believe the project's $8 million total, something six to eight.
It's been estimated at around 8.5.
So
That's other.
I mean, those would be the things I would like to know before I would go further on that.
Are there other parcels, just, and forgive my ignorance, that we have within the community that
No,
are
not-
this is the only
And the
existing
schools.
parcel of land that's deemed for school use that is not quote unquote developed at this moment in time?
The fields at Maple Shade are ours, the schools, right?
Yeah, that's all school.
Okay.
And at some point, and I don't know the history, but Pleasant View Senior Center was a school.
Right,
So there must be some agreement that was reached with that. as
Right.
well.
I mean, I don't, you know, it's not like I'm gonna say no to it. It just, I feel like I want a little more information.
No, there's nothing wrong with
There's a
that.
timing issue. There's whole kinds of stuff going on in my brain right now.
does anybody else have questions they'd like answered in regards to that? For asking,
I'll come up with a couple questions.
have-
and
okay.
write 'em.
I have a question.
go ahead.
So original warrant article.
Yeah, because Mary alludes to it in this email. She
Okay,
says
so
below.
so you're looking for me to see if I can find that.
It says, I have attached the section of town meeting votes from November 1958, Article
Okay.
5
All right.
and Article 6.
Okay, so it's gonna be, it's an.
I think she's got it, just maybe got cut off a year or something.
Okay,
And I guess my question would be like, why, you know, why can't, obviously, there's a lot of land. There's another 40 acres there.
Well, if they're not gonna use it,
Not-
if they're not touching it, but they just need to take it, then that's a relevant answer. Because Amy, we don't know, I guess, future. The intent of the 1958 warrant was to allow it as school property. Well, why was that? And is it even usable? I don't know if it's wet. I mean, we think it's wet, but
I
we don't
think that
know.
they're just, I mean, this is a tough shot, but we'll try to get a better map which shows some of the water that exists there. We
I think it
there's
feeds
actual-
it that
yeah,
way.
there's an
yeah.
actual.
Like that's what
brook
feeds
there.
the.
Right, right. the whole
So
pond.
we'll get a little more information and we can certainly bring this back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's partly why I'm asking. If there's not, if this is the only parcel of land that is developable by us as a board, then I think that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
And if this land is not necessarily,
Under
yeah,
schools, yeah.
because what happens if we need to think down the future about the annex, let's say? If the
Central
annex
office.
doesn't land here,
Yep.
and we might need a parcel of land to potentially place something like a community center or a pool down the road, and this is maybe developable.
There's two access points, I believe, and again, we could ask that too, but the green
Mhm.
goes on to Gates. And also, is that West Allen Ridge? No, it's off of West Allen Ridge. I don't know what that street is. But there are two access points, I believe, to that 19 acres.
I mean, my only concern is are they in I know that the green thing was they were to push because I don't even think they're doing it anymore. Until
What?
the spring, the green thing, because there was a push, it had to get done by October
Yeah.
1st.
Right.
I wouldn't want to mess around with this. I'm assuming there's
No.
not a a hard set date that this has got to get,
No,
That I don't know.
Yeah.
you know,
It
and
might be something for the park application, so we have to look
I
at.
don't want to
that.
hold them up just for the sake
We'll
of
find
holding
out.
up. I just want to know, like,
Get
in
it.
terms of,
get the information. We'll get that information.
Okay, so park application deadline. Yep. I got it.
and what is this land eligible for? Like, just because it was maybe developable back in 1958,
Yeah.
doesn't mean that the environment hasn't changed. And
Sure.
to your point, it could be all wetlands right now, and
Right.
we can't do
And I
anything with it.
I think that they
Exactly.
are working with a design firm, and so they may have, in the near future, may have engineers helping them with that. to
Okay.
Figure out what's wetlands, what's not
Yeah,
wetlands.
that'd be good to know before we
Yeah.
decided as well, if it's a
Um,
buildable lot, yeah.
Okay,
Maybe it's a joint.
so I can find out.
Okay,
Bring it back
excellent.
for next
Cool.
Thank you.
And with that, we have reached the end of our meeting. I wanna Thank Jamie for helping us out tonight. Thank you, Jamie. And Julia, thanks for being here tonight. If there's nothing else, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Made by Beth,
Second.
second by Sarah. Discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. We are adjourned. Thank you so much.
Thank you.